It is that time of year again where the book communities get very orange and very cozy for the fall season. But not only does it reflect with the visuals of the bookish communities online, but also what we're reading. So today, let's look at 10 books I recommend you read this autumn. Starting with a book I read semi-recently, and that is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. Now, this is all about a justice. Who is this person who goes around the empire making sure that everyone is following the law and everything's tip-top, all okay. So Justice of Kings kind of has multiple things that I think is really good for this season. First of all, there is a murder mystery aspect to the story that I really enjoyed. Because this is about a justice, we come across some issues, and the justice and his assistant, Helena Sedanka, have to solve some of the issues in this small town. However, on top of that, with some of the world building, there's some really weird horror elements. It just kind of gets touched on in this first book that I believe becomes more prevalent as the books go on. But there's definitely some creepy horror-like things with the world building, especially tied to the justice's power of being able to talk with the dead. So this is a perfect pick for the fall season. Cozy murder mystery type vibes. Cozy is maybe not the right word. Murder mystery part of it, and also horror elements. It's a solid pick, if I do say so myself. Just pat myself on the back there, but you get the idea. Next up, we have one that's pretty damn obvious just by the title. The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This was just released this year, and it follows this very quirky cast of characters known as the Devils as they try and get this street urchin onto the throne of Troy, because she's this lost ancestor. What I loved about this book was Joe Abercrombie's writing. I just love his humor. It really is funnier than a lot of his other work, Devils, which is weird because it's the Devils and you think it'd be maybe darker. It is genuinely really funny and entertaining to read. It has this alternate history style narrative and interesting religious themes with church. It definitely slows down a bit in the middle. There's a bit of a lull. However, I do think this is still well worth the read, and being the Devils, there's no better season to give it a read. Next on up, we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Now, this is an alternate history fantasy book. It takes place in 1807, this alternate England. Or is it 1806? 1806. As we follow these two magicians that are trying to bring magic back to London. Now, this is a long book, and there's so much to the narrative. There's a lot of arcs to it as we go through this alternate history. But for me, the real draw to this book is just the atmosphere and the tone. It's incredibly immersive. I think Susanna Clarke does an incredible job of just writing a really vivid setting with some really interesting characters. It's the type of story that's so easy to get lost into. And there's this really interesting Fae realm and a lot of lore that's kind of built up throughout the story with this Fae King type character. And the magic is fascinating. It is this soft magic system where we don't really know its limits because it does draw from this Fae realm. It's a fascinating story, and I really don't know how to hype it up because it's so bizarre and unlike anything else I've read. But I just highly recommend this if you're looking for the type of read you just want to sink your teeth into and really get sucked into this very atmospheric new world. However, I know that is a very long book, so if you do want something a little bit shorter, definitely check out The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. Now, I have talked about this book a lot, so I'll try to not badger on with the same talking points every single time. But this is a fantasy murder mystery that follows this character called Din and this detective called Anna Delabra. And it's such a fascinating world with this biomutagenic sort of class system where people can go under surgery and gain these different abilities. We have these huge walls that you can see here that are blocking out these leviathans that attack every wet season. And it's fairly short, it's definitely fast-paced, it's fun. The murder mystery itself is just really interesting, definitely keeps you guessing with the plot twists and the turns, but also learning more about the main characters, both Din, the point of view character, but also Anna Delabra, this really quirky and quite funny detective. It's just such a good read. And it also got a Hugo this year, so it's got the awards to even back up how good it is. And the second book, A Drop of Corruption, is just as good, if not better. So we got plenty of material, but if you do want just kind of that shorter, fast-paced murder mystery, you can do that. And then you'll probably be addicted and immediately pick up the next one, because they're really good. Next on up, we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Now, this is maybe a weird pick for a fall video, but it just feels like it fits into this season very well. It all takes place in this grand library. This seems to be almost endless. We have two main point of view characters. The first one is Elvar, who is trapped within the library with his siblings. That's where he is brought up, with this very strange, almost robotic-like creature looking after these children. And the other character is Lavira, who works at the library, and she does live in the city outside and comes in to work at the library. And it's a lot to do with this library setting, and that's the part that really drew me in. It's a fascinating, very bizarre setting with almost this, not sci-fi elements, but there's almost these robotic-like creatures that live within the library that kind of take care of it, and lots of really interesting world building tied to that setting and the plot itself. Very introspective themes to do with knowledge and power as a civilization and kind of progress, which is really fascinating. It's definitely a slow burn, but oh boy, is it well worth that slow burn. Highly recommend. However, it's Dark Academia season, so that's not the only library setting we have on this list, because we also have Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wong. Now, this is still one of the best books I have read this year. It really, really impressed me. It follows Siona, who becomes the first female mage to join this academy, and she takes on this personal assistant who is deemed as a lesser person because he is of the race that doesn't live within this city of progress. He's kind of flee from the outside wildlands into this city for protection, and there are a lot of really deep themes that are touched on within this book. And for me, the part that really drew me in was the character of Siona and kind of her mental struggles in this. I thought was just really well done and very gripping. In some of the twists and the turns with the plot, so good. There was one chapter in the middle that I had to put the book down and think, what? That's insane. It's also a really well-paced book. There's no lagging, there's no slow bits, nothing's rushed over too quickly. I do think the pacing is really good. And yeah, M.L. Wong knows how to write devastating, fascinating stories with really interesting characters. Now, it wouldn't be in a thumbnail list, ooh, that slipped out of my hand there, without Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff, because his vampires in high epic fantasy is awesome. It's so good. One of my favorite books of all time. I just absolutely adore this series, so if I have any excuse that I can shout about it, I will take that excuse and I will shout about it. So consider this me shouting about it. Especially with the third book in the trilogy coming out next month, there's no better time to start this series. This book has some of the best prose I have ever read. I love J. Kristoff's writing style, especially in this book. I love the humor, I love the story, I love the characters. There's just every element of the story I really, really enjoyed. It's so damn good. If you've not read Empire of the Vampire yet, read it. However, if you're looking for a slightly different kind of undead, definitely check out Ninth House by Leah Bardugo. This is a dark academia, murder, mystery, urban fantasy. I think I hit all the key terms there. But this follows a girl called Alex Stern who can see the dead. And she currently resides within Yale University, where they have these houses that are each tied to a type of magic. And she's part of the Ninth House, which is kind of this house that's just dedicated to make sure that none of the other houses touch on magic that they shouldn't. However, when her friend goes missing and people start turning up dead, she falls into this murder mystery around this university that is just really interesting to follow, especially because we learn more about Alex as we go on as well, and kind of her past and how she became part of the Ninth House. There are so many bits kind of all going on in this narrative that are really, really interesting. But yeah, love me some murder mystery and I really like Dark Academia, so it's a perfect blend for this season. However, we're not done with murder mysteries yet. Can you tell that I like murder mysteries? Because the next book on this list is Murder at Spindle Manor. Am I going to get a copy just to throw up and catch it? Okay, fine. Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang. This is another one that I've talked about quite a lot. I often compare it to Knives Out, which is this very quirky, bizarre, funny movie. And that kind of tone is exactly what Murder at Spindle Manor feels like. We follow a demon hunter that turns up at the Spindle Manor, hunting down this parasitic demon that takes over a human's body but retains all their memories. So after a storm hits, she is trapped within this manor with this very quirky cast of characters, and she has to work out which one is this demon. So of course, a lot of the other cast have skeletons in their closet as well, but also just the setting of the Spindle Manor itself has some really interesting elements to the story that I really enjoyed exploring. Super short, fast-paced, really fun. Highly recommend. And last but most certainly not least, I'm going to be a complete sellout and recommend my own book, Harbinger of Justice, because I do think that it fits into the fall season quite well. This is a dark epic fantasy series that follows two main characters, Naya, a young girl who lives on the street looking after her mother, and Rai, a mercenary with a dark past. And Rai has this creature living in his shadow called a shade. This book takes a lot of inspiration from ancient Egyptian mythology, especially to do with kind of the justice side of the mythology. If you know your ancient Egyptian mythology, then you're a real nerd. High five. Often compared to Aladdin because it has this sort of Middle Eastern themed landscape and setting, as well as Venom because the shade that lives in Rai's shadow does talk to him, and it kind of has a Venom grumpy sunshine dynamic with Rai, and also Stranger Things because it has this rend into another dark world. We also have an ancient lost library, which again is one of the elements that really ties it into the season in my opinion, and even some horror elements in there as well with some of the shadow magic. So yeah, I don't really get to talk about my own books that often, so I'm just being a complete sellout in this one, and I like talking about it because I'm really happy with it. I'm proud of it as a book. But let me know down in the comments below what you will be reading in this fall season. Thank you very much for watching. Love murder mystery, love some dark academia. Academia?